Hey guys, how's everybody doing today? This lovely afternoon in San Francisco. Thank you guys for coming over here. Okay, we're good now. Thanks everyone for coming to listen to a little bit more about Hatch and our partner clinic, Pacific Fertility Center, Los Angeles. So I want to walk through a little bit about who we are and what our history's been and what it's like to work with us at Hatch and what our program looks like. So Hatch was actually the nation's first egg donation program back in 1990, founded by the late Shelley Smith. So we've been around for over 30 years, and in that time we've helped 8,000 intended parents become parents with our donors and our surrogates. We have a journey success rate of 99.5%. That's the percentage of our clients who put a deposit down with us that walk away with a baby at the end of the process, and that's because as part of our program we will rematch you with a new donor or a new surrogate if anything were to happen with your original selections at no additional cost. We're in the business of getting you to the end result of having a baby. What makes us different compared to all the other people you are meeting here today, of which there are many, I know it's a lot, it's a little overwhelming and very confusing, are a few big things. So the first thing is that we have the largest database of any agency of fresh egg donors, 384 as of this morning, that are ready to match with you right now. The second thing is that as one of the larger agencies in the United States, we actually make it a point to only hire former surrogates, or current surrogates actually. So every single team member that you interact with at Hatch has been through the surrogacy process herself, and the few of us men in the company, we all are parents or fathers of surrogacy through this process. And the third thing that makes us different, and this is really important, which is we are owned by a medical clinic, which is really pretty rare in our space. Most of the folks you met upstairs are either agencies or they're clinics. They're not both. And the reason why we combined these two companies 5 years ago was the idea of offering a simplified journey. That was the main reason. But the second reason is that we bring much more medical oversight to the surrogate screening process than other agencies do. Our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Viken Sahakian, who does about 250 surrogacy journeys himself as a doctor every single year, he is reviewing the medical records of our surrogates as they're being screened through our process to ensure they meet the rigorous medical standards of an IVF physician during that process. We actually also have all of our surrogates undergo a uterine lining check before we match them with intended parents. That's the main reason why surrogates are disqualified from the process after you match with them. So we make sure that their uterus looks perfect before we match you with them, so we have a far lower rematch rate than any other agency out there because we put them through that rigorous medical review before you meet them. So those are a few things that make us different at Hatch. Largest fresh egg donor program in the United States, and we're one of the largest surrogacy agencies in the United States, but we do endeavor very much to make it feel like a boutique experience. During your surrogacy journey, you only work with two people the whole time, your match coordinator and your case manager who manages the case till the birth of your child. Now, we also partner with Pacific Fertility Center Los Angeles. It's one company. I'm the president of Hatch and the CFO of PFCLA. And the reason why we brought these two together is, again, because we really think that a unified experience is a far more smooth experience. Our team works together all the time on all the cases. The coordinators know each other. They communicate via Microsoft Teams. And so everything gets done very quickly when you're working with a combined clinic and agency partner. PFCLA has its own history. 30 years in the business, and very early on specialized in the area of surrogacy and egg donation fertility, or what we call third-party reproduction. We have 6 incredible double board certified physicians there, and despite that, having 6 doctors, over half of what we do is still surrogacy and egg donation fertility, and as a result, we have some of the highest success rates in the business. We have an 82% success rate of your best quality embryo that will transfer into your surrogate to pregnancy, which is the highest number we have seen quoted by any clinic in the United States. And that's not only because this is what we do, it's our bread and butter, but it's also because we really make sure we invest in the latest technology. We just opened in February of 2023 the nation's newest, most state-of-the-art IVF lab and facility, investing in AI-empowered incubators that take the guesswork out of embryology and the growing of your embryos. It actually utilizes the whole history of the data of embryos growing in a lab to identify your best embryo, not but what an embryologist says, but by what the data says. And we're finding that that is already inching up to our success rates beyond that 82%. We're really excited about that technology, which we just installed last August. So what's that combined program look like? So it's a single package that we call our baby guarantee package, and that's exactly what it sounds like. It's a fully guaranteed journey where we will guarantee you the birth of a child. Its one price includes as many transfers of your embryos as you need to get pregnant and covers all journey contingencies. So it includes first-time surrogate compensation and everything she gets paid, allowances. It includes donor compensation up to $10,000. 60% of our egg donors have $10,000 compensation, and there, of course, is a long tail as that goes up for experienced donors, and, Harvard models will obviously charge a little bit more, but you can pay the difference between our package price and what those donors charge. All legal expenses are included. You can choose your own lawyer, though. We do not have lawyers on staff. We believe in third-party lawyers as another check on the process for you. So any of the lawyers you meet at this event, you can work with any of them in our program. We include all travel expenses for the donor and the surrogate to come to our clinic to do all their procedures. The only travel that's not included is your travel to come from San Francisco to LA, or some of you out there actually live in LA, so you don't have to travel anywhere for that part of the process. And then if for some reason you run out of embryos, which can happen, 90% of our clients get a baby from a single egg retrieval from a single fresh egg donor, 90%. But 10% don't. Something happens, unexpected, you get a couple embryos and those embryos don't work, you have to go back and do the whole process over again, costs like $45,000 in donor costs and medical costs. We will do that again, a second or third or fourth time if necessary. I mean, we never need more than 2 tries at it, but we include that to make sure we give you that protection. All health insurance is included. Health insurance is really, really, really complicated with surrogacy. Some surrogates have health insurance, some don't. Some have surrogacy-friendly insurance, some don't. It's a very confusing mess. We just take care of it for you. We cover all health insurance expenses and liens for whatever surrogate you want to choose. Her health insurance situation, her job situation is irrelevant at Hatch. We will just take care of it. All lost wages, again, for what she gets compensated for in her contract. All medical costs, all medical clinic costs, including medications, PGTA testing, anything you need at the clinic is included. And then, of course, as many transfers as you need to get pregnant. And if for any reason you have to rematch with a surrogate, we will include that as well. The cost of that program is $230,000. It's not all paid up front, but that's if you use a Hatch donor. However, if you want to work with a donor that's not in the Hatch database, that is fine. We do not want to hold you hostage to our database. It's half the genetic makeup of your child. We want you to choose the best donor for you. So if you end up finding a donor outside of Hatch, you just pay us $205,000, and you pay the donation agency you find her at, whatever their costs are related to her compensation, their agency fee, travel, escrow, those sort of things. But we still do the baby guarantee. So we will still make sure we screen her medically at our clinic, and we will provide you that full guarantee. The payments over time, the initial deposit is $79,000. That is both your medical costs and your surrogacy deposit reservation costs. Then you'll begin your clinical testing. You guys will provide your sperm. We'll do the blood testing on you to make sure everything is good for FDA rules. And then we'll get you on the match list. Then once you find your donor, you'll pay us $25,000 for that donor, or you'll pay that money to whatever donation agency you find your donor at. And then $32,000 is due upon match with your surrogate, and $94,000 is due once you actually already begin your pregnancy. Right now at Hatch, we have a 10-month wait time for surrogates who are working with PFCLA, and about 12 months for surrogates that are not working with PFCLA. And that's not because we're discriminating, it's just because other clinics are taking a very long time to review surrogate medical records right now, and so we have to build in a little bit of time there to allow them to do that part of the process. But that 10 months can happen while you are creating your embryos. And we find that with fresh egg donors, that process takes on average 6 to 8 months. And not because it takes that long, just because it takes you guys time to get all your logistics done. And sometimes donors aren't really ready to go right when you need them. And so we find that that's about the average. So while that's all happening, you guys can be on the match list. And once you are ready to go, our average match time is 2 months between embryos ready, tested, and matched with your surrogate. So last thing I want to talk about is just why do this peace of mind program, right? You're talking to lots of vendors out there. You're talking to clinics. You're talking to agencies. Everyone has their pitch as to why they're the best one, right? Why should I be your partner on this? Why we like this program are a few big reasons. One thing, and the reason why we devised this program, by the way, is before I joined Hatch 4 years ago, I had about a dozen friends who were in your position right now and then had gone through the process. And almost every single one of them had a complaint of some sort about the process, and the main complaints really focused around 3 things. The 3 things were, no one could tell me how much it was going to cost up front. I didn't know what I was saving for. The second complaint was that it's very complicated. I have to pick a surrogacy agency, a donor agency, a lawyer, a clinic. Like, how can someone just do it for me? And the third complaint I heard was that when things went wrong, I had to pay a lot more money. If there was a miscarriage, if there were multiple transfers, if I had to rematch with a surrogate, the bills added up, more legal costs, more medical costs. And so we tried to build a program that addressed all of those problems in this market by doing the peace of mind package. So with our program, you know what you're paying on day one. You know what your bill is, you know what you're saving for, you know what you have to ask mom and dad for. That's the amount of money it's going to cost. The other thing is that we minimize the risk of unexpected expenses. Let us insure you so that if something goes wrong, we bear the costs, not you guys. The other reason why this is great, and this is a little more, you know, kind of a thing you wouldn't thought of, which is at other agencies, you're having to maximize like geographic location and travel expenses and what her job is and what her health insurance situation is. These are all factors in like who you choose. We don't think it should be about that. We think it should be about who is the best donor for you and who is the best surrogate for you on a social level, not who has a certain job or a certain health plan. So at our agency, those things don't matter. We just pick the best one for you. And then the last reason is that we are one team. We work together seamlessly. It's a team at Hatch and PFCLA that has decades of experience in doing this very work. And we think that that team is a winning combination. So that is Hatch, and if you choose to work with us, PFCLA, of course, you can also work with just the clinic, you can work with just our surrogacy agency, or if you find one of our donors in the database, you can also work with one of our donors too. Any questions?
Okay. So I see you put in there the health insurance for the surrogate. Does that also include the complications related to the IVF if the surrogate has any kind of complication during or after? Is that covered as well under those insurances?
Yes, we provide IVF complications insurance for the donor, and then of course, like the surrogate has her own health insurance plan that we pay for and have her covered for the surrogate portion of it. Yeah, so all the health-related expenses are covered.
Can you explain more about evaluating the uterine lining process? Yeah,
so the main thing that disqualifies a surrogate for surrogacy is that her uterine lining is below 7 millimeters of thickness. And this is becoming far more common nowadays because women are utilizing what's called an IUD for birth control. And what we're finding is that IUDs are actually sort of damaging the uterine lining into some somewhat shocking degree. And so what we do is we have our surrogates run through what's called a mock cycle. And what a mock cycle is that they basically give the surrogate sort of like a lighter version of transfer medications to see what the thickness of the uterine lining would be during a cycle that you would do for surrogacy. The reason why we can do that is because our surrogates, we have a medical director who's an IVF physician who can prescribe those medications, and so we can then have them take those meds for 2 weeks. They go to a local radiology facility or an IVF clinic. We pay $300 to $500 to have her screened, but we think it's really important because then we find out before the pregnancy if she has sufficient uterine lining, or before the match, if she has sufficient uterine lining, so then we don't have to DQ her later, because it's very frustrating when you like meet the surrogate, you fall in love with her, you're like, oh my God, she's the right one, and then we find out, oh, she's not medically qualified. So there are other things that could come up during the medical screening process, like she could have not the right vaccines, or she finds out she has diabetes now all of a sudden. If that were to happen, of course, then we'd have to disqualify her, but based on our records, 90% of medical DQs happen because of uterine lining. So we decided to make a policy change this year of like, let's just spend the money, do that check in advance so we don't have to deal with those DQs and those frustrated intended parents. So we always think about like, how can we possibly make the experience better for you so that you guys don't have to have the frustration of having to switch surrogates? Yes? Yes, so to be clear in terms of 2 children, right? Much like almost every other doctor now in the United States, we are no longer doing twin or double embryo transfers at our clinic, which I know is really unfortunate. You guys are just now in a time in which the medical community has decided that that's not worth the risks anymore. Most of my gay friends, like 5 years ago, did twins, and that's just not possible as much anymore. So, unfortunate news. So that means you need a second surrogate to have a second child. So we have a sibling journey package where you come back. It's $160,000, and it's for baby number 2. Now, some people want to still do the twin experience of having 2 kids born at the same time, which why you would choose to do that, I have no idea, but some people want to do that. So you can still do what's called a twibbling journey, where you have 2 surrogates pregnant simultaneously to have 2 kids, or you space them out 5 months, or you space them out 10 months. My husband and I have a 6-month-old, and we're starting the process right now for baby number 2 with the same surrogate. So our kids will be basically like a year and 3 months apart. So it just depends on how you want to space it out and have those siblings done. And it's great if you can work with the same surrogate a second time. It's amazing, right? Because then you get to have the same woman carry both your children.
Any other questions?
I'm a little confused because I heard from San Diego Fertility Center and also Circle, they still have the option to do dual embryo transfer, but with limited option. But what you just said is essentially zero opportunity. So maybe clarify that.
For any new clients moving forward at PFCLA, the doctors at PFCLA won't do a double embryo transfer anymore. We're still working with like existing clients we said we would do it for, but the medical community, again, I'm to talk to the doctors at tomorrow's doctor panel and have them explain to you why they're making this decision. Obviously, as someone who's in favor of helping people have babies, I would love for that to still be an option because I think it's a great way to save a lot of money to having a family. But I think the medical community is pretty much speaking in unanimity at this point and saying it's probably not a good idea.
Hi, thank you so much. Would it be possible to pull the cost checklist back up?
Oh yeah, sorry, something's going on. I don't use Macs, so this is a Mac and it's confusing the heck out of me, but here it is.
Thank you. I guess this might be a silly question. Are there costs that are not included on this? Because I'm just wondering, like, what does this not include?
The only cost that so the only reason why you would pay more to this, two reasons. One, you pick a donor that has a compensation request that is greater than $10,000. So let's say, she's an Olympic athlete, right, and she wants $50,000, then you have to pay the difference between the $10,000 and the $50,000 for that premium donor. The second reason would be if you're working with an experienced surrogate. So to be clear, every single surrogate you will ever work with has been pregnant before and has had a baby and is raising that child. But some people like the concept or the idea of working with an experienced surrogate who's actually done a successful surrogacy before. Experienced surrogates in our program earn $10,000 more for every successful previous journey. So if you want an experienced surrogate, you would pay more on top of this package for that experienced surrogate, and that amount of money would go directly to the surrogate. The default in our program is first time, by the way. 75% of our surrogates that are available to match today are first time, because generally experienced surrogates want to work with the same family the second and third time, and so they don't tend to be part of the active matching pool. So we're not going to force an experienced on you, but that would be the other reason why you would pay more. So otherwise, that's it. I mean, we designed the program to be fully comprehensive, and the other complaint, by the way, the fourth complaint was the nickel and diming thing, where oh, by the way, you have to pay for these lost wages. Oh, she had a C-section? Cool, $3,000 more, please. And they keep adding on costs, and it's super frustrating because you're I already maxed out my credit cards, and now I owe $3,000 more. What the heck? The program is designed to avoid that nickel and diming, and anytime we had a situation where a donor needed to go under anesthesia for an ultrasound because she was scared of the ultrasound, and the team was like, is that covered in the Peace of Mind program, Greg? And I was like, yes. The answer is always yes, because we don't want you to feel like we're just grabbing more money from you because, of something that is out of your control.
We're actually at time.
Oh, sorry.
So,
okay.
Thank you, Greg. You can find Greg upstairs at the expo. Talk to him about Hatch and...
Yeah, come to our booth, and I have cards here if you guys need consultation.
Thank you, Greg.